It's 9 a.m. on a Monday. You sit down with your coffee, ready to start the day. But before you can do anything else, there's one thing you need to check: your email. But instead of just opening it, you feel this weight in your chest. Your finger hovers over the icon. Maybe I'll just finish this coffee first. Or check the news. Or literally anything else. Here's the thing. You're not lazy. You're not avoiding work. What you're experiencing has a name: inbox anxiety. And if your stomach drops every time you see that notification badge climbing higher, you're about to discover why your brain treats your inbox like a threat, and more importantly, what you can do about it. But first, let's see how much this resonates with you. Before we dive into the psychology, I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 for this first question, where 1 means never and 5 means all the time. Question 1. How often do you feel your heart rate increase or experience physical tension when you think about checking your email? Write that number down. We'll come back to your total score at the end. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain. When you open your email, your brain doesn't see messages. It sees threats. Every unread email represents an unknown, and your brain, which evolved to keep you alive, hates unknowns. Research from UC Irvine found that having constant access to email significantly increases stress levels. The study showed that when people were cut off from email for just 5 days, their heart rate variability improved, meaning their bodies were physically less stressed. Think about it like this. In the Stone Age, an unknown rustling in the bushes could mean danger. Today, an unknown email from your boss with the subject line, "Quick question," triggers the exact same alarm system. Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, doesn't know the difference between a genuine threat and a message that might contain criticism, extra work, or conflict. This is called anticipatory anxiety. You're not anxious about what's in your inbox, you're anxious about what might be in your inbox. And psychologists have found that this type of uncertainty is actually more stressful than knowing bad news for certain. But here's where it gets interesting. Email also plays into something called intermittent reinforcement. Back in the 1930s, psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered that rats became more addicted to pressing a lever when the reward was random rather than predictable. Every time you refresh your inbox, you're essentially that rat. Sometimes it's junk, sometimes it's something urgent, sometimes it's good news. Your brain loves this slot machine effect, which is why you keep checking even though it makes you anxious. You're caught between dread and compulsion. Not fun. Email anxiety doesn't look the same for everyone. Psychologist Alice Boyes identified 3 main types in her research at Psychology Today. Let's see which one fits you. Type 1, the waiting game. You send an email and immediately start obsessing over when they'll reply. 5 minutes feels like 5 hours. Your brain starts creating stories. They're mad at me. They're ignoring me. I said something wrong. Type 2, tone detective. You've read that email from your colleague 4 times, analyzing every word for hidden meaning. No exclamation points equals they're upset, right? Research shows we have a negativity bias with email. Psychologist Daniel Goleman found that messages automatically get downgraded in perceived positivity. If someone sends a neutral message, we read it as slightly negative. If they send something slightly negative, we interpret it as hostile. Type 3, the inbox mountain. Right now, you have emails from 3 weeks ago that you still haven't opened. Every day you don't deal with them, the anxiety grows. Psychologist Kia Rai Pruitt calls this the responsibility pile, where each message feels like a task you're failing at. Question 2. How often do you avoid opening emails because you're worried about what they might say or what they'll require from you? Add that to your running total. Here's something that makes email uniquely stressful. It strips away 93% of communication. According to research by psychologist Albert Mehrabian, 93% of how we understand messages comes from nonverbal cues.
tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language. Email? You get none of that. Zero. Zilch. So you're trying to decode someone's meaning using only 7% of the communication toolkit. No wonder you're stressed. Plus, email is asynchronous, meaning there's a time delay between sending and receiving. This creates what psychologists call the uncertainty gap. In face-to-face conversations, you get immediate feedback. In email, you're left guessing, and your brain, remember, hates guessing. Then there's the issue of email overload. Research shows that professionals spend 28% of their work week managing email. That's more than 1 full day per week just reading and responding to messages. The average person receives 122 emails per day and checks their inbox 15 times daily. That's every 37 minutes. Question 3. How often do you feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of emails in your inbox? Keep adding those numbers. The problem isn't just volume, it's also the dopamine trap. Every time you check email, your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. But unlike actually completing meaningful work, email never ends. You're chasing completion that never comes. Psychologist Jocelyn Glide calls this the urge to completion, where your brain craves the satisfaction of finishing something, but email just keeps coming. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. Exhausting, isn't it? Now, before we get to solutions, let's talk about who's most affected by this. If you're someone who prides yourself on being responsive and responsible, you're at higher risk. If you're conscientious, organized, and make detailed to-do lists, inbox anxiety hits harder because every unread email feels like a task you're failing to complete. People pleasers struggle too. If you worry about disappointing others or being seen as unprofessional, every delayed response feels like you're letting someone down. And if you're working in a culture that values instant responses and always-on availability, the pressure multiplies. Some workplaces treat email like instant messaging, creating unrealistic expectations that fuel anxiety.
Let's talk about what happens when inbox anxiety goes unchecked. This isn't just about feeling a bit stressed. The impacts are real and measurable. Question 4. How often does email stress spill over into your personal time or affect your sleep? According to research, 56% of people report that email stress affects their work performance. Half say it impacts the quality of their work. When you're constantly interrupting yourself to check email, you experience something called attention residue. Part of your brain is still thinking about that last message, even when you're supposed to be focused on something else. The physical impacts are real too. The American Psychological Association found that chronic work stress, including email-related stress, can lead to headaches, sleep disturbances, difficulty concentrating, high blood pressure, and a weakened immune system. And it bleeds into your relationships. Research from 2018 found that frequently receiving negative or brusque emails at work can cause people to withdraw emotionally, affecting not just workplace relationships, but personal ones too. You bring that email stress home with you. Here's what's particularly concerning. 58% of chronically stressed workers develop anxiety or depression. We're not just talking about feeling stressed anymore. We're talking about mental health impacts that affect your entire life. The productivity cost is massive too. With 80% of workers experiencing productivity anxiety, that constant feeling that you're always behind, and 77% reporting burnout, this is a crisis affecting millions of people. Okay, enough with the doom and gloom. Let's talk solutions. I'm going to give you 3 evidence-based tools that actually work. Tool 1, batch processing. Break the refresh addiction. Stop checking email constantly. Research from UC Irvine and the U.S. Army proved that scheduled email checking reduces stress and increases productivity. Here's how. Choose 2 to 3 times per day to process email, maybe 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m. During those times, you go in with one mission: process everything. Read, respond, delete, or schedule. Then close your email and don't look at it until the next scheduled time.
The first few days will feel weird. You'll have the urge to check constantly. That's the dopamine addiction talking. But stick with it. By day 3 or 4, your brain adjusts. The constant low-level anxiety starts to fade because you're not in reactive mode anymore. Pro tip: set up an autoresponder that says something like, I check email at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m. If urgent, please call. This manages expectations and takes the pressure off. Tool 2. The if-then response template. Email anxiety often comes from the mental load of composing the perfect response. What if you didn't have to reinvent the wheel every time? Create templates for common email situations, not robotic copy-paste responses, but structured frameworks. For example, for a I need to think about this emails, thanks for reaching out. I need until a specific date to review this properly. I'll get back to you by then. For a I can't do this emails, I appreciate you thinking of me. Unfortunately, I don't have capacity for this right now. Have you considered someone else? Having these frameworks reduces decision fatigue. You're not starting from scratch every time, which means less time staring at that blinking cursor, overthinking every word. And here's something that can help even more. If you want structured tools to manage not just email anxiety, but overall stress and worry, check out the Positive Psychology Toolkit from positivepsychology.com. They have over 500 research-backed exercises, worksheets, and assessments created by psychology experts. Their stress management tools include things like the Reverse the Rabbit Hole worksheet, which helps you challenge anxious what-if thinking with equally plausible positive outcomes. And their Coping Skills Inventory teaches 6 different evidence-based coping strategies you can use when email anxiety strikes. For practitioners and individuals alike, these tools provide structured ways to work through anxiety triggers and build resilience. I'll put a link in the description. It's a subscription service, but they offer a free trial so you can explore the resources. Tool 3. The Mindful Email Reset. Before you open your inbox, do this 30-second practice. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. On each exhale, visualize stress leaving your body. Then set an intention. I'm checking email to serve my priorities, not to react to everything. This sounds simple, but it's neurologically powerful. Deep breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which counteracts the stress response. You're literally calming your amygdala before you encounter potential triggers. Psychologist Kia Rai Pruitt recommends another powerful technique. Ask clarifying questions. If an email makes you anxious because you don't understand what they want, it's totally okay to respond with, I want to make sure I understand correctly. Are you asking me to... This does 2 things. It reduces your anxiety by removing uncertainty, and it often reveals that the request wasn't as big or scary as you imagined. And remember that negativity bias we talked about? Challenge it. When you read an email that seems cold or critical, pause and ask yourself, what are 3 neutral or positive ways I could interpret this? Often, you'll realize you were reading hostility that wasn't there. Final question. How confident do you feel about your ability to manage email-related stress? Okay, add up all of your 5 numbers. Let's interpret your score. 5 to 11 points. Low inbox anxiety. You've got a healthy relationship with email. You might feel occasional stress, but it doesn't control you. Keep doing what you're doing and use the batch processing technique to maintain those boundaries. 12 to 18 points. Moderate inbox anxiety. Email is starting to weigh on you. You're not in crisis, but you're feeling the pressure. The good news, you're catching this at a stage where implementing the 3 tools I shared can make a massive difference. Start with batch processing this week. 19 to 25 points. High inbox anxiety. Email is significantly affecting your well-being and productivity. Here's what I want you to know. This isn't your fault. You're not weak or broken. You're experiencing a normal psychological response to an overwhelming situation. The tools I shared aren't just nice suggestions. They're essential for your mental health. Consider starting with just one scheduled email time per day and building from there. And listen, if you're scoring in this range and the stress feels unmanageable, please consider talking to a mental health professional. There's no shame in getting support. Inbox anxiety can be a symptom of broader anxiety or burnout that deserves professional attention.
Here's what I want you to remember. Your inbox is a tool. It's supposed to serve you, not control you. The dread you feel isn't a character flaw. It's your brain responding to genuine psychological triggers. Uncertainty, information overload, the pressure to be constantly available, and the absence of normal human communication cues. The average person will send and receive over 300,000 emails in their lifetime. That's too many messages to spend in a state of chronic anxiety. You have more power here than you think. Batch processing, response templates, mindful resets. These aren't just productivity hacks. They're acts of self-care that protect your mental health and help you do your best work. Start small. Pick one tool. Try it for 1 week. Notice what shifts. And remember, every time you close your email app after a scheduled session instead of leaving it open all day, every time you ask for clarification instead of spiraling into worry, every time you breathe before diving into your inbox, you're training your brain that email is manageable. You're taking back control. If this video helped you understand why your inbox feels like a battlefield, hit that like button and subscribe for more psychology that actually makes sense of your daily life. Drop a comment and tell me, what's your biggest email anxiety trigger? I read every comment. And hey, if you're someone who lies awake thinking about unanswered emails, you might want to check out our video on overthinking. I'll link it in the description. A lot of the same psychological patterns are at play. Your inbox doesn't define you. You've got this.